Hey everyone, what's going on? Happy Monday. Today is May 12th. May 12th, 2025. Yesterday was Mother's Day. So again, the goal, take off and land in about an hour. Last week I went a little bit over, but tonight I want to take off and land in about an hour. So we're taking off right now. We're lifting. We're going up to 30,000 feet. Hey, first of all, thank you to everyone who subbed the channel. I have to thank the master teacher for sharing the stream in his network. That certainly helped with the viewership. But folks can watch, but they don't have to subscribe. So I appreciate you all subscribing. The channel just went up. I shouldn't jinx it, but it went up above 2,100 subs. And thank you to number 2,101, because when you cross those milestones, the way YouTube works is sometimes it bleeds you back down. I don't know why it does that. I don't know if people unsub, but as of now, the channel has reached 2,101 subs. So thank you to everyone who watched last week's tribute to Michelle Obama. And I hope you hang on for the rest of the ride. And Michelle, we're not done with you yet. Hey, you want to let me know who's here? Who's there in the chat? Shout yourselves out. I'm going to play my Curtis Schoon intro. It's not about having fun. And also cultural. There are no political solutions for cultural deficiencies. Let me make sure I can see myself on YouTube here before I get started. So today I'm going to thank Tamron Hall for taking a public position on something. Time will tell if it was just for show. But I wanted to thank her and acknowledge her for taking this position in the era of decentering men and boys. So let me click on this. I see my red live icon there. So yeah, if you can, let me know who's here. And I will, as soon as this Planet Fitness ad ends, I will see you on the other side of the intro. I think Aquateki is the first one in. Aquateki, thank you for being here. All right, there's me. I'll see you all on the other side of the intro. Aquateki laughed at my tribute to Mrs. Obama. Hey, I was nice compared to what other talking heads and pundits and media people have been saying about her, both black and non-black. So, all right, the intro. So, where did this topic come from? So I'm going to admit that because of where I come from, see, in this world, we're all living in different worlds, and not everybody is privy to the same information.
That we will rush to finish things that are important so we could do things that are not. And I believe it's an immaturity there. People just don't understand that, life isn't about having fun all the time. You have to have fun sometimes. I agree. But as an adult, there's time where you have to just say, okay, listen, I got to get down to work right now. And I don't think enough of us value that time or really understand the fruits of that labor. Somehow we think things are just going to be without that kind of effort. And culturally, there's a deficiency there. That's why I always say that there's no political solution for cultural deficiencies.
So, where did this topic come from? So I'm going to admit that because of where I come from. See, in this world, we're all living in different worlds, and not everybody is privy to the same information. There are no political solutions for cultural deficiencies, and not everybody is privy to the same information. So tonight, within the next hour, I want to say some words about a position that Tamron Hall took on her show and why that resonated with me. I hope you all had a good weekend. I'm going to start with this. I'm waiting for someone to come through before I uh, love on former First Lady Michelle Obama for just a little bit. But I will say that thank you to everyone who liked. I think you guys liked the picture of Toya. You guys didn't like to see me. But I did. Yeah, I did get to chop it up with Toya the tutor, uh, Toya son, Trust. You guys, she's had many names, but I did get to chop it up with her over the weekend. And I'll just say that one of the he's here. One of the things that I had a revelation this morning on my way into work, and one of the things me and Toya talked about, we talked about a couple of different things, but with this channel, with my face being the face of this channel now, and with it being forward facing, I have to be careful about what I talk about and with what I say here. And one of the things that I shared with her was this channel kind of evolved. This isn't a Michigan football channel or a science channel or a channel where you talk about Star Wars and Star Trek and the Avengers. This one is it's evolved to kind of encompass current events and social topics. So for a while I was somewhat doing the relationship stuff, the Kevin Samuel stuff, the black relationship stuff on a regular. That stuff gets pretty testy, and because of life circumstances, I kind of rerouted and tried to find a new lane. So now here I do more thought pieces, more commentary, and more reaction. And most of you all know that I'm a newly self-published author trying to get off the ground. So like the Field Master on Wheels, I want to sell books, and for the rest of my life, I want to write books. But speaking of which, I had a revelation this morning, piggybacking off of that part of my conversation with Toya. And so this morning, there's a deli that I stop in every morning to get coffee, and someone high up in my organization was in there. We're on good terms. He was getting his coffee. We engaged in small talk. And in the course of us engaging in small talk, he said, "Oh, I heard you dropped a book." And I said, "Whoa, how did you hear about that?" Because I didn't tell everybody at my job. I mean, I think as an entrepreneur, if you're selling something, you want to tell everybody. But I wasn't quite sure how appropriate it would be to tell, to make a mass announcement at the job. You want people at the job to feel that you're there for your mission, you're there for your purpose, you're there for your duty. And I am there for my duty, but I realized, okay, well, I asked, well, how did you find out about it? He said, well, he said, your director told me. And I'm thinking, okay, well, how did this person find out about it? Long story short, people are watching. Okay. So I kind of walked the line a little bit here in terms of playfully covering these things, but I realized that I have to be careful of my social media footprint because people will go dumpster diving into your X feed and your YouTube library, and so I have to be careful about what I put on social media, and you guys should be careful too. Okay, let's level on Michelle Obama just a little bit more before talking about Tamron Hall. So yesterday was Mother's Day, and let's go over to X. I just mentioned X. Abdul Gaines is here. Tony Akuteki is here. He says, tribute to Michelle Obama. He says, greetings, Dr. Dunbar. Tony says, good evening, Dr. Dunbar in chat. Abdul Gaines says, so I'm ready for what's to come here. And Indigo Flow, I can't see that on the StreamYard side. So that is okay, I think that's a salute emoji. All right, so let's go over to X. We're gonna love on former First Lady Michelle Obama a little bit. She could use the love right now. She's getting skewered a little bit out in the real world. But apparently this is the new dance. I'm not gonna play the sound because I don't want to get a copyright strike. But this came up on my X feed last week. There's First Lady, former First Lady Michelle Obama showing us her moves. Let me blow that up for you guys. I'm not going to play the sound so I don't get a copyright strike. But this appears. Come on, Chrome. It's probably taking that long to load up because it's a video. But I just want to give you guys a good vantage point here so you can see it too. All right, Chrome, come on. Waiting, waiting, waiting. Please smash that like button on the way in. Okay, I might have to go back to the smaller view so you guys, so we can just get on with it. This Chrome, man, I tell you, when you needed to, all right, let's go back. All right, you guys can see Michelle there. Okay, so guys, this appears to be the new dance. Fair use, fair use. Well, there's no sound, so I don't have to say that. This appears to be the new dance. Do you guys know what that dance is? Because I think Madam Vice President Harris, look at her doing that thing with her. Madam Vice President Harris, she was recently on tape doing this dance with some guy. I thought it was Will Smith initially. But here's Michelle. She was practicing the dance herself. And there she is doing it with none other than Tina Knowles. And we all love Tina Knowles around here, don't we? And we love Richard Lawson too. And Matthew Knowles. But here's Michelle doing the dance again. You guys know what this dance is called? I don't know what this. I'm always the last one to find out about the latest dances. I can do them pretty well. I can do most line dances pretty well. You guys wouldn't know it looking at me, but I was once a pretty avid salsa dancer. So Dr. Dunbar has some moves on the dance floor. But let's watch Michelle one more time, then we'll move on. I like seeing people have a good time, and Michelle's having a good time doing this dance. Okay. Tina Knowles is trying to keep up. Michael Ross says, I don't care, Dr. Dunbar. Where are the policies for Black Americans? Okay, we've had fun watching Michelle dance a little bit here. This also came up as well. This was posted yesterday. I didn't see this until this morning. But what's been making news is the very gracious words that Michelle has had for her hubby, Barry, publicly. And Barry posted this yesterday. And in the aftermath of last week's stream, one of the things I realized, and that I have to applaud Barry for, is that for as much as she's voicing her displeasure about him publicly, Barry's been very quiet. So Barry hasn't been flinging the mud back at her. So Barry's been very measured. He's been very diplomatic. So no matter what she said about him, Barry has been cool about it. So I want to applaud him for that. This tweet here, this X says, Happy Mother's Day to all the amazing moms and mother figures. At Michelle Obama, so he added her. The girls and I are so lucky to have you in our lives. We love you. There's Malia and Sasha. They're beautiful young ladies themselves. They're all grown up. But Abdul Gaines, he says, our community has the worst. Okay, so everybody, again, I'm being watched. The views of the chat do not reflect the views of the host. Abdul Gaines says, our community has the worst politicians than ever before, Gone are the days of Barbara Jordan, Shirley Chisholm, and Ron Brown. Well, Abdul Gaines, Curtis Schoon, in our discussion, he did say that. He says most of our Black politicians are into symbolism and activism, and they don't specialize in governance anymore. But Barry's taking the high road. He's being very diplomatic. So, Abdul Gaines, finish this sentence for me in tribute to Barry and Michelle. I forgot to throw this in last week. Oh, no. See, our motto is when they go low, Abdul Gaines, finish that for me in the chat. When they go low, is he still there? he gave me the wrong answer. Oh, no. All right. Let's bring this back up. There was a drop that Obsidian played at the end of every show from Michelle Obama when they were president, when they were in the White House. And the drop goes, oh, no. See, our motto is when they go low, we go high. Yeah, guys, that was her one of her signature sayings before she got on fire at the Democratic National Convention. No. See, our motto is when they go low, we go high. Abdul Gaines, I'm disappointed that you didn't finish it the way that Michelle said it. Anyway, so guys, so Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to Michelle Obama. All right, so Mother's Day was yesterday. And yeah, it's Dr. Dunbar does go to church sometimes, and I did go to my place of worship where I'm a member and I pay tithes. It turns out Mother's Day is the third most church attendance day for the year, behind Easter and I think Christmas. So Mother's Day really matters. Father's Day doesn't get the buzz and the fanfare that Mother's Day does. So the master teacher did say that our mothers are special because our mothers are a part of us. They nurture us. They carry us to term for 9 months. So our mothers are a part of us. And the pastor at my church also joked that in many instances you have to reserve a spot at brunch months in advance for Mother's Day, and then for Father's Day you can just do it day of and just show up. But Mother's Day, so I had a revelation. So it's a progressive liberal place of worship, so it leans that way. And for you guys, if you want a hint as to who the pastor at my church is, look up Delano Squires' library, because he castigated my pastor and a bunch of other guys like Jamal Bryant. But they did a reenactment called Hidden Figures, right? But they used the scene, they used the birth of Moses. Okay, so they had an actor for his mother, for the little girl, for Pharaoh. And what they did is they highlighted these scriptures here. I'm going to read Exodus 1, 15 and 16, and I'll keep it short. They highlighted Moses's biological mother, which came out of Exodus. Okay. And it reads as follows. This is just the first two verses. Please smash that like button if you haven't. And this is the revelation that I had. This reads as follows. Then the king of Egypt told the Hebrew midwives, whose names were Shiphrah and Puah, when you help the Hebrew women in childbirth, look at the child when you deliver it. If it's a boy, kill it. But if it's a girl, let it live. Let me read that again. Hold on a second. Okay, it's back. Then the king of Egypt told the Hebrew midwives, whose names were Shiphrah and Puah, don't know if I pronounced that correctly, when you help the Hebrew women in childbirth, look at the child when you deliver it. If it's a boy, kill it. But if it's a girl, let it live. I'll read through this entire thing. However, the midwives feared God and didn't obey the king of Egypt's orders. They let the boys live. So the king of Egypt called for the midwives. He asked them, why have you done this? Why have you let the boys live? The midwives answered Pharaoh, Hebrew women are not like Egyptian women. They are so healthy that they have their babies before a midwife arrives. God was good to the midwives, so the people increased in number and became very strong because the midwives feared God. He gave them families of their own. Then Pharaoh commanded all his people to throw into the Nile every day. Hebrew boy that was born. Okay, I think that might be a misprint. But the point is, and I think we all have memories here of watching the Ten Commandments with Charlton Heston and Yul Brynner. And then when God put the curse over Egypt, seeing Yul Brynner carry his son, put it in on the arms of that God statue. But what stood out to me about that? That stood out to me, and even though the reenactment yesterday was to feature Moses' mother because she put him in the basket and he made the journey up to the castle, and Pharaoh's wife made him one of their sons. What stood out to me is Pharaoh wanted all of the Hebrew boys killed. He didn't want all of the girls killed. And just really quickly, guys, before we move on, what's significant about killing off the boys? Why would Pharaoh want to kill off the boys and let the girls be? Any thoughts out there? We're just doing a quick thought exercise. Why would it be significant to control and cull the boys and let the girls be? Tony said, this is a good one. The men are the leaders. Okay. That's been they've here in the West, we're doing an experiment to rewire this. But anyone else? This is the big one here. Akwateki says, no challengers to his authority. That's right. The GOAT has entered the building. Passport OG. Salute. Michael Ross says to maintain power. So Passport OG, we're doing a quick thought exercise. Why did Pharaoh order the boys to be killed off and not the girls? Why not kill the girls and leave the boys? Okay. And I think all of your answers are interrelated, and it goes back to what the master teacher said about the tumultuous 60s. After, during, and after the baby boom, why certain social movements were put into place, because you were getting a critical mass of young men who could arm themselves. So men are usually the ones who organize the revolutions. Okay, men are usually the ones who go out and riot. Okay, men are usually the ones who form gangs. Men are the ones, as Akwateki said, men are the ones to challenge authority. Okay, so what happens? So both genders have an important job. Okay, and we can make the argument that women. I'm going to get to this next. We can make the argument that women have the most important job, which is to bear children, carry them to term, and then they are the first purveyors of culture. Which brings up another quote: "The hand that rocks the cradle rules the world." That's their superpower. That's arguably, regardless of the degrees, regardless of how much we want to modernize and westernize everything and push for equity, that's arguably, and I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this, but that's probably the most important job of women who can bear children. Okay, if you're watching this and you're offended and you want to shoot slings and arrows at me, have at it. But it just is what it is. But again, you guys have listed them out here. Men tend to, in traditional societies, okay, the men tend to be the leaders. The men tend to challenge the authority. The men tend to the men usually make up your standing army. Okay, the men are the ones who start the riots. The men are the ones who start the revolts. The men are the ones who build. The men are the ones who explore. The men are the ones who challenge the authority. So that's why that was significant. And that's the epiphany that I had at service yesterday, even though it was focused on Moses' mother. Now, she had an important job because she didn't carry out Pharaoh's order, and she sent him up to Pharaoh's home, and he ended up saving his people. So that was a very, very important part of that story in scripture. But in general, yeah, that's why Pharaoh mandated that. And I think it's important for everybody to keep that in mind when you look at what's happening now with our Western societies and how things are atomizing. Shout out to Mr. Z. So that was my revelation in Mother's Day yesterday. So yeah, Indigo Flow said, baby boys grow up to become potential combatants. And that was probably, one theory is that wars are used to cull down populations. A lot of Black men died in Vietnam. So that, in addition to trying to tamp down communism, many speculate that the Vietnam War was also a form of population control. Okay. Michael Ross says, you mean it's not magic, Doc? The mothers actually have to care about the outcomes of their sons as well. Yeah, we're going to get to that. Mothers, and I'll say this here before I introduce and talk about Tamron Hall. The women in the family actually, aside from carrying children to term, nursing them, and then being the first purveyors of culture, the women still have important jobs after that. If you're a young man and you grow up in a family where the women protect you, okay, and take care of you and game you up, you're very fortunate. Okay, in some families, the women protect the boys and the men. They game them up. They tell them, "Hey, you shouldn't be talking to her. She's no good." They interrogate and vet any woman you bring around the family. Your mother will tell the woman, "You mess with my baby, you're gonna have to deal with me." Okay, if you are a young man and you're in a family like that, you're very fortunate. Versus a family where the women in your family won't game you up, won't tell you what to look out for, won't tell you what certain things mean. In many families, okay, the women protect the boys and they groom the boys up for leadership. That doesn't happen in every community, in every race, but I hear it's very much like that in Jewish communities and in Jewish families. All right. So with that out of the way, so Tamron Hall. Who is Tamron Hall? So my first exposure to Tamron Hall was at A. Johnson C. Smith University, Washington D.C. Alumni meeting. Okay, there was a woman there named Miss Portia. I'll keep it discreet, Miss Portia, a very financially minded senior woman. At the end of a meeting, I remember her saying, "I really like Tamron Hall. I really like Tamron Hall." And I was thinking, okay, well, who's Tamron Hall? I was out of the loop. I didn't know. This was about 8 years ago. I didn't know who Tamron Hall was. But then I looked her up and I said, "Ooh, Tamron Hall." Let's take a look at Tamron Hall. Uh-oh. We might be having a technical difficulty. Can you guys still see me out there? Can you hear me? Can you guys put a 1 in the chat? Can you guys All right, thank you, Akateki. All right, let me try the screen share again. StreamYard kicked it back. Tamron Hall, as I said, very easy on the eyes. We're going to read the quick Google AI synopsis here. Tamron Hall is an Emmy award-winning broadcast journalist, author, and television talk show host. She's the executive producer and host of the nationally syndicated daytime talk show Tamron Hall, which debuted in 2019 and has earned her two Emmys, two daytime Emmys. The New York City-based show features a mix of live and taped segments and connects viewers with people and stories that are shaping the world. Let's take a look at Tamron's photo gallery. So a little intro here. So she's 54, a very, very lovely 54. And she's married to Steve Greener. Okay, interesting here, her parents, only her mother is mentioned. Mary Newton, she stands 5'9". She's somewhat tall for a woman. She's not Brittany Griner tall, but she's tall for a woman, and with the heels, she probably be even taller. And it looks like she graduated from Temple University. All right, let's just take a quick look at her photo gallery. As described, very easy on the eyes. There was a picture of, oh yeah, there's her husband right there, this gentleman. And this is what Tamron likes. So this is Steve Greener. I don't know too much about this gentleman, but this says meet Tamron Hall's ultra successful husband, Steve Greener. So I imagine she would need somebody who's very, very successful, just like her, if not more. But he's not a celebrity, so I think, yeah, she pretty much holds the spotlight. I think, I like that look where she has the bang on the side, the right side, and they have a son. Here's a picture of him. There's her son. He's got, curly brown hair. I think his name is Moses. That's the name of the character in the book. So guys, I was so inspired by what she said, and we're going to listen to what she said in addition to Jalen Rose and Jason Wilson. But I was so inspired by Tamron speaking up the way she did. I got a copy of her book, Harlem Honey, The Adventures of a Curious Kid. And this book was inspired by her son. I think her son's name is Moses. The main character in this book is Moses. Anyway, let's listen to what she had to say. Then we'll wrap this stream up. Elkston says, Elkston says, again, everybody watching this, if you're one of my bosses or one of the higher ups, or if you're at one of these media companies, the views of the chat don't reflect the views of the host. So Elkston, thank you for your participation. Elkston says, I do not care for Tamron Hall. Has she ever dated? Okay, let's see. I don't know anything about this. Has she ever dated a black man? I think she despises black men. So whatever. Well, she had two black men on her show. One of which I met at Detroit Metro Airport a couple of years ago. One of which is a fellow Michigan alum. Go Blue. So she had Jalen Rose and Jason Wilson on her show recently. And this Jason Wilson gentleman, he's been making the rounds lately. So it's his time to shine. He is about building men. He is about building boys. And he is on the spiritual side. Okay. Let me get rid of Tony Robbins and Dean Graciosi here. Okay. Pause that. Okay. And so as we watch this, guys, this is I entitled this stream, "Thank You, Tamron Hall. What some mothers learn when they have sons," and I probably could have reworded that to the epiphany some mothers have when they have sons. I was watching Rollo Tomasi last night, and he had a woman named Jedediah Bila on there. I watch a lot of stuff, and she's a boy mom, and she said, you know, her point of view changed on this construct we're living in when she had a son. So something happens when women have sons. They may be very, very progressive and liberal when they beforehand and even after they have girls, but something happens when they have boys and they see the current climate in this country and in society for boys. And a lot of people are looking at this now. They are looking at men falling out of the workforce. They're looking at men no longer being willing and caring about dating. They're looking at they're looking at what's happening with boys and men now. That's starting to gain traction. Okay, Dr. T.S. Johnson writes about the plight of the plight, not the ploys. Dr. T.S. Johnson wrote about the plight of Black boys in this book, and also shout out to, rest in peace, to the late Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu. He did a lot of hard work about the struggles of Black boys and Black boys not being able to read before he passed away. Nicholas Eberstadt's been making the rounds. Men without work, prime age men, many of them Black like us or melanated like us, are not in the workforce, and they don't care to work. Aaron Clary, I had him on about a month ago. He wrote "Enjoy the Decline," but also "A World Without Men," and he makes the argument in this book that one of men's major motivations for working and getting up and going to work is having a loving wife and a family. So if you take that away, he argues you're also taking away their willingness to go and do back-breaking work. So a lot of people are paying attention to this now. They may not all be saying what's causing it or what the genesis of this is. I think eventually we're gonna have to work our way back to that, but they're certainly concerned about what will come and what will continue to come if men continue to underperform and check out. If anyone wants to make a donation to the channel, Super Chat is live. My Cash App and PayPal are here. I knew someone would focus in on Tamron's husband and her dating preferences. I'm swerving around that to the message that she shared in this video. All right, fair use. Let me land the plane in 1 hour. Jalen Rose and Jason Wilson break down what it means to raise great men. Michael Ross, thank you for the $5 super chat, super sticker. Appreciate that. Fair use.
Welcome back. Today we're having an important conversation about what it means to raise good boys and young men. We're back with NBA legend Jalen Rose, and Jalen has made it his mission to empower the next generation, and he's doing so alongside his friend and best-selling author of the new book. It's called The Man the Moment Demands, Jason Wilson, and in it he offers a path, he says, to freedom for men. Let me read a little bit. It says, in a world where misinformation distorts the essence of manhood and societal expectations push men into emotional incarceration. Here's a clip from the book.
All right. I've never played one of Tamron's clips. I don't know if she's very, her operation of machine are very, very anal about copyright striking people, but other people have shown this, so I think that I'll be okay. Fair use. Have you guys seen Jason Wilson making the rounds? I've noticed his face has been appearing more. It may just be his time, or or see, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. Well, it may just be his time. Fair use, fair use.
When I finally understood my own emotional struggles and learned how to reconnect with my heart, I realized that I had been emotionally incarcerated. I understood how my upbringing had subtly ingrained in me an unyielding resistance to becoming a whole person. I couldn't be a complete man for my family, friends, and loved ones because I couldn't be one for myself. That's when I began to learn what it means to be a comprehensive man.
Please welcome the brilliant author behind this much talked about book, Jason Wilson.
Tamron, please don't copyright strike me. Indigo Flow, he says, I followed him on IG some years now. He was IG famous for a minute. Okay, so he's been building momentum up to this point, which is what you usually see for successful people. You see the success, but you don't see the work that went into them getting to that point. Thank you, Indigo Flow. Please smash that like button. You guys keep letting me know what you think there in the chat. Got some AKAs there in the front, and they're pink and green, looking very lovely.
Thank you so much. It's honored mine. Thank you, thank you. Have a seat. Oh boy. Listen, this is huge. I am so happy. I saw a social media post that one of you put up, and I immediately called the team. I was like, this is my dream team. This is my fab too, because this is the conversation. Jason, why are we having it now in this way? What is the temperature out there?
Why are we having this conversation now in this way? What's the temperature out there now?
I believe we reached a tipping point in regards to masculinity and manhood. Men are tired of being just providers and protectors. We desire a life more fulfilling. And then also, I believe society is kind of disregarding the men, meaning how we feel and our roles in life. Frederick Douglass said it's easier to raise children than it is to repair broken men. Although that's true, I believe we're leaving men broken, and that wasn't his intention as well from that quote.
So, guys, keep in mind, this is mostly an all-female audience, and when he was speaking, you could hear a few sparse claps. Okay, this type of thing is not. It's just now being addressed in a large way on the outside. So I imagine most of the ladies in this audience are not used to hearing what he just said about wanting to be more than protectors and providers.
To tell you, I wrote my first children's book, and I had the protagonist be a little boy, and I had this conversation. I was on The View, and I said, listen, as an empowered woman, I benefited from society saying, let's lift up girls. I mean, like I said, Wonder Woman had me thinking I could fly a clear plane, you know, and I benefited from it. And then I had a son.
And then I had a son. Okay. And by the way, I think her son's going to be okay. I mean, he's biracial. He's got that curly hair. And he's Tamron Hall's son. He's going to get to go to a nice private school. You know, they're going to know he's Tamron Hall's son, so he's going to be okay. Okay, but this was the big epiphany here. I had a son. If she had a girl, she probably wouldn't. She wouldn't be having this epiphany. Even though the irony is, in this decenter men era. This era of if you can't do something for the boys without doing something for the girls, and some of these other things she's going to say. Has it occurred to anyone that who are those girls going to marry? Who are those girls going to pair off with? Who's gonna be in your standing army? Who's going to build the buildings? Who's going to build the bridges? Who's gonna maintain law and order in your society? Okay, let's continue.
And I started to feel like boys are left behind. And it was tough for me to say it because I had some friends who identify themselves as feminists say, wait a minute, the world has put us down so long. And I said, but we can't leave them behind to lift us up. And
I'm going to play that part one more time because I think that kind of gets to the crux of this construct we're living in. The feminist she just described, it sounded a lot like it was about control. You've been pushed down long enough. Now it's our time to take control. Peace, Alonzo. All of us have to huddle up again, the money group, and do something money related really soon. Oh, Indigo Flow, thank you for introducing this vocabulary word. He says, in other words, it can't be a zero-sum game. Does everybody know what a zero-sum game is? Does everybody know what a zero-sum game is? On my channel, I like information. I like to learn things. Does everybody know what a zero-sum game is? Okay. Does anybody want to? I mean, I could just give it away. I could just tell. Yeah. Jamal, thank you very much. Please smash that like button. So a zero-sum game is the viewpoint that there can only be one winner. Okay. And if you get something, it's at my expense and I lose. So and it's the viewpoint that only one party can be helped. There can be no compromises. There can be no rising together. There's only one winner. That's a zero-sum game. If you're doing something for the boys, then it's taking away from the girls, and the girls are going to fall behind. Okay, but I think the interesting thing about this. Okay, let me say this. Conservative is a bad word, especially on the liberal side, especially on the progressive side. You know, we're in this era of red team, blue team, Democrat, Republican. But conservative, all that word really means is it means the old way. It means what got us here. It means conserving what got us here. Okay. And I think those of you who follow me on my science channel, I did a stream on Chesterton's fence. It's very, very dangerous if you remove the fences without thinking about why they were put there in the first place. Okay. And over the last 20 to 30 years for Generation X, in our lifetime, we've seen fences removed and we've seen the results of those fences being removed. I mean, I might, if that offends you and you're watching this and you want to tar and feather me, that's fine. But it just is what it is. Yeah, so Jamal says, I win, you lose. Elkston says, women don't lose just because men gain. Right. And Passport OG says, winner take all. Akuteki says, traditional. And Abdul Gaines is, we got a beefy quote here. He says, she is saying that this in notable part because she is married to a white man. Black women do not respect Black masculinity. I think that's what that says. The ladies in the crowd can accept what Tamron is saying because she is with a with a white man. Interesting take, Abdul. Okay, so here's another interpretation of conservative. Michael Ross says conservative is just a code word that means to maintain white supremacy, in my opinion. So Michael Ross, so let's all do a thought exercise here. What does it mean when you hear that when they're not in liberal progressive churches, Black people tend to be socially conservative. We were a socially conservative people. We weren't very rainbow embracing 20 to 30 years ago, but now we've gone more that way. We were the highest, the most married at one point before the 1970s, before all this stuff took root. That was conservative. So, but I see where you're coming from, in that conservative is just a code word that means to maintain white supremacy, in my opinion. Okay, I think I'll just sum it up and say it can have many meanings, but I think one meaning that I saw is that it's preserving what got us here. Okay, the Equalizer says, Doc, people aren't familiar with first, second, and third order thinking. Thank you for that, Sal. Fair use, fair use.
That was a tough, I had some hard conversations with people, because when you say boys are being left behind or men aren't being supported emotional, some people still believe, well, men have benefited.
We haven't benefited. It was a facade. We wear the cape like we're superheroes, but that cape is strangling us. And it starts from childhood. We're told big boys don't cry. Then when we get older, no pain, no gain. And then what doesn't kill you can only make you stronger. So I call those misleading mantras, and it's deceived us, actually hoodwinked us into a false manhood, something that's not comprehensive. We are also nurturers. We are also lovers. We're gentlemen. We're kind. We're compassionate. But at the same time, we're courageous.
Yeah.
And so when you hear terms like toxic masculinity, there's nothing toxic about being masculine. If this
What do you
building
mean by
was,
that?
if this building was on fire,
there's nothing toxic about being masculine. Yeah, that term really chaps my hide. Toxic masculinity, toxic masculinity, toxic masculinity. All right, now he's gonna give an example of bravery here.
Would you want passive firemen to come in here eating donuts, relax? No, you want men full of masculine attributes, courage, strength, boldness, kicking down doors and carrying us out of here to safety. So there's nothing toxic about masculinity. What has happened is we've allowed that one word to define manhood. It's just an adjective, attributes traditionally ascribed to men as strength, boldness, and aggression. It was never meant to be a comprehensive definition of what it means to be a man. And so when you pigeonhole men into just two attributes of life, and then you look at the stats which say we die by suicide almost 4 times as likely as women, we commit.
Shout out to Dr. Tiosan Johnson. Dr. Tiosan Johnson put that stat in his book. Women attempt suicide more, but men are more successful at suicide. Fair use, fair use.
Almost 90% of homicides in this country, 9 out of 10 people to live to be over 100 are women. What has happened to men is that we're not tired of living, we're tired of not living.
Your friendship with Jalen has been incredible. You are from Detroit as well, so you know the landscape of where he grew up. I read a quote once when Jalen said, you know, he'd be outside and he's like, why can't I just go in and read a book, right? The temptations of out there versus inside were challenging. Take us to Jalen's journey and why he becomes a great example of what you're trying to accomplish.
What I love about Jalen is Jalen has always been transparent, not emotionally, because again, we grew up to hide behind a facade. We always had to be tough. We always had to be strong. Your mother could die and your boy come up to you and say, stay strong, bro. At a moment when you should allow yourself to be weak and to cry and release the stress hormones that are in your body, you have to put on this facade that I'm always good.
I always see Jalen, and I used to think of Boys in the Hood, that scene with Angela Bassett, and he said a woman can't raise a boy. And his mother was such a strong figure in his life, but yet this yearning of this other person. Talk about that dynamic.
Yeah, Jalen got some criticism here as well, because I think it's in the comments. We're going to take a brief run through the comments when this is done. Apparently, you know, and I met Jalen in Detroit Metro Airport. He's a good guy. He stopped and took a picture with me. Unfortunately, I lost that picture. But someone pointed out, oh, Jalen, he had all these kids. He didn't marry the mother, and he married Molly Abdul Gaines. What's her name? Molly something or other, who worked right there at ESPN, and I think they split. So, you know, nobody has a perfect life. He's trying to do the right thing. He's paired up with Jason. So everybody takes criticism for something. It was Molly something or other. Fair use.
Well, we call it the father wound. It's a wound that happens either from a father's abusive words, actions, or his lack of presence in the child's life, specifically a boy. And so what Jalen felt, I felt as well. My father was in the same city. He loved me, but he worked a lot. Men who have to work really hard, maybe 2 jobs, can't.
Hold on, guys. I my internet's doing the antenna thing. Hold on. Can you guys still hear me? Give me a 1 in the chat. Can you still hear me? All right, we're back. Abdul Gaines, thank you. He says it was Molly Querum. Yeah. Jalen was married briefly. I don't think they lasted long, but Molly Querum. All right, let's finish this up.
Can't be at every football game. And I publicly apologized to him when I became a man, like, Dad, I'm sorry you had to work, but this is the key as fathers. We can't allow our silence to make our children believe a lie. And what I mean by that is when you can't make it, let them know.
When you can't make
it to the event, the dance recitals. But here's another issue. So when we're emotionally incarcerated, we've been programmed from childhood to not be expressive. So our surface emotion is anger. That's our go-to. We can go to anger when we're sad. We go to anger when we're happy. You know, this is the safe space. But when we learn how to express the deeper emotions like sadness, hurt, empathy, or even depression, or a longing that I became for my boys in the Cave of Adullam, the martial arts program, I gave them what I longed for. And so a father, when you miss those moments, don't allow your silence to speak for you. Speak up and say, my daughter, my son, it hurts me. Trust me, when I'm at work, I'm thinking about you and I'm sad. When a man can release those, he's free.
He's free. Coming up, more with Jalen and Jason and how they are passing on this knowledge to the next generation. We'll be right back.
Ooh, Tamron. All right. I hope I don't get stricken for this. Shoot, Dr. Thunder, I got this model from him. The watching and reacting. YouTube Passport OG, I got this model from you guys. But there's a second segment to that. Jalen talks a little bit more. I'm not going to play that because I don't have time. I'm right up on an hour. But I thought it was everybody's talking about this now. I mean, I don't know if the pendulum is swinging back the other way, but I think the higher ups are looking at the birth rate crisis and the lack of pairing, and people are starting to take notice of something. And I thought it was powerful. I don't know who Tamron is connected with behind the scenes in terms of the theys. Shout out to the field master, Ron Wills. But I thought it was significant that she would come out and say that because it's I forgot my subtitle there, because it's been a scientist, author, blogger, content creator. because for the most part, it's been recently about we got to get the girls up, we got to get the girls up, we got to get the girls up. But again, going back to the biblical story about Pharaoh, there was a reason. There was a reason he told the Hebrew midwives to kill off the boys, because the boys play an important role in society and in family, in the traditional nuclear family. The boys the men make up your standing army, your law enforcement, and even when most of your families are female centered or matriarchies, those men are still needed to perform those roles. They're still critical in the lives of boys and girls. Girls suffer when there's no father around as well. They suffer early on, and they suffer for the most part in different ways later on. Well, I'm going to end with this. Going back to what Tamron said, and again, salute to Tamron for saying that. I don't know if she's going to do more on that, but if you watch that clip again, one of the places where she got questioned and one of the places she got pushback was on The View. Of all, well, and that's not surprising, but I wonder, was it Sunny who contested that? Was it Whoopi? Was it Joy Behar? Was it Anna? What's her name from CNN? But society's not used to hearing this right now. Okay, we can't leave the boys behind. If we leave the boys behind, something, bad things are going to happen. There was a quote in Dr. Sean Nelm's book. It's an African proverb that a boy. You know what? Let's look it up, and I'll land the plane shortly. Let's see. A boy will burn down the village. Yeah, here it is. And you guys keep this in mind yourselves. The child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. Okay, so this, in other words, this is saying that things will catch up with everybody if you neglect boys. Okay, and even who's saying that? I think it's Scott Galloway, and people question his motives. Dr. Scott Galloway. He says some of the most dangerous people on the planet are boys with no purpose and no mission and no belonging. Well, this is it right here. If they're not embraced, then they will create chaos. They will destroy things and riot and beat up old ladies and do other unsavory things. But it's, if you disrupt the natural order, then you're going to get the fruits of that, whether they be thorny or sour. And I will say this: I was thinking about this earlier. Just if there's thinking about the story of Moses, his mother putting him in the little basket and floating him up to Pharaoh's palace. The mothers have an important job. The women in your family have an important job, and if the women are in fact the first purveyors of culture, then the women play a huge role in where those children go, where those boys go, and what they go on to become. And it's, from what I've heard from the master teacher and others, In the Jewish community, the mothers take that seriously. What happens to the boys? And they actually groom the boys for leadership. So mothers, women have a lot of power carrying the babies to term, choosing who becomes fathers. Okay, that's an unpopular thing to say. I was thinking about this earlier. Should I say it? Well, I'll go ahead and say it. Yeah, because my mother mentioned this when I was home in Buffalo for Easter weekend. She basically alluded to this, that her choice in the father of me and my brother. She admitted that she chose the father for us, and that's not talked about a lot. The women actually choose the father. They choose who becomes fathers. Okay, that's not popular to say. It's often not looked at that way. And when you talk about when you get into those messy conversations about men having all these babies and men having all these children, that's when the conversation comes off the rails, because the accountability piece, it becomes a game of hot potato. Well, you should be more careful with your seed. You should be more careful with who you lay down with. But ultimately, it's the woman's choice whether or not that baby gets carried to term. I might take some slings and arrows for that, but it is what it is. Okay. And today, a woman has to want to do the dance with someone. She has to want to do that. She has to choose to do that. With those fences removed, with family and all the old social values removed, the social mores removed, now it's down to pure choice in most instances in Western societies. Yeah, and I think I will land the plane there. Tony says the YN epidemic. I'm not sure what that is. Michael Ross says, I'll say it, Doc, most of these ninjas have no business fathering kids. Well, there are choices there. There are choices there. People are making choices. Indigo Flow says, let the slings and arrows fly. They have all the power when it comes to that. Sal says, correct. The women select the fathers, thus determining the quality of the next generation. Yeah. It's unpopular to say, but it is what it is. Shout out to the field master, Uncle Ron. He made a video about a month or so ago stating that the one thing that nobody is talking about in the birth rate crisis is who the ladies today want to do the dance with, who they want to do the forbidden dance with. Their choice. It's a very different world than it was 50 to 60 years ago. Their choice. Okay, guys, I'm going to land the plane. I need to eat something and get in the bed before it gets too late. Got to get up. I have to get up and go make the donuts tomorrow. But I wanted to, thank Tamron Hall for saying that. I don't know if she's going to follow through with that and feature it more. I did watch. I watched another Jason Wilson video earlier today. He weighed in on Shannon Sharp, but he took a more spiritual road, and he urged men to be careful and obedient to Yeshua, which is another word for Jesus. So he took a more spiritual path, talking about that, much more spiritual than that discussion with Tamron Hall that he just had. But if he's sticking up for boys and men, then I applaud him, and I'm gonna keep my eyes on what he's doing, and maybe I'll get to partner with him one day, him and Jalen. And yeah, I think I'll land the plane there. Passport OG says, Future. Speaking of the future, Future has more baby mothers than he can count. What happens to those kids when they can't do their math work? Yeah, I was watching. I might feature, in the time that I figure out who my next guest will be. You guys know that I like the podcast Dad Saves America. I was watching he had Heather McDonald on. Now, okay, I know a lot of people don't like Heather McDonald. Her thing is, among other things, lowering standards at institutions of higher learning. And yeah, she mentioned that many of the struggles academically in the Black community come down to the family or the lack thereof. Okay, so I will probably do something on that maybe as soon as next week because I was really getting into it earlier. Okay, all right, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up. It's almost 8:30. Thank you all for watching. Michael Ross, thank you for the generous super chat. If anyone is watching on the playback, please like, share, and subscribe, and please smash that like button. If you want to leave a super thanks, that is there. And you can also donate something to my Cash App and PayPal if you want to. And the information for my book is there. And my book, it's a book about what sports teach you. But one of the things I'm realizing is that this book is also about rites of passage. This was a form of rites of passage for me at that time. I didn't realize it at the time. And that's something else that's coming up in these discussions regarding what's wrong with society and boys, is that our country really doesn't have a formal rites of passage for young men and young women. And that was mentioned in The Anxious Generation. I'm reading that right now. And Jonathan Haidt points that out. There's no rites of passage anymore. So when does a boy become a man? When does a woman become a woman? Is it when she starts ovulating and having her menstrual cycle? Does a boy become a man at age 18 when he can vote and go to war? Does he become a man when they do both become adults when they can legally drink? We don't have that anymore, which is another reason everything's swirling all over the place now. There's no more formal rites of passage for either generation. I mean, for either gender. All right. If you guys want a copy of my book, the information is below in the description box. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, Zelle. If you want a hard copy, hard copies are $27, and the paperback is $22. On Amazon, the hardcover is $35, and the paperback is $27. All right, everybody, have a good night. Thank you all for hanging out here. And with that, as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Always try to do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. And Abdul Games, remember, our motto, no. Our motto is, when they go low, we go high. Shout out to Michelle Obama. You guys have a good night. I'll talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.